On the still frozen prairie, seeding time just a spring thaw away. Farmers prepping for another season of tight margins and fickle weather. But this year, foreign policy is top of mind on tractors too.
With China, I mean, that's a big hit, 100% tariff. So that's the second biggest market.
Tariffs kind of slipped under the radar for a lot of folks.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not getting the attention it deserves. The canola industry, I mean, it's as big as the auto industry in Ontario, and this is not getting the attention that it ought to.
Canadian farmers are facing the kind of blow they hoped would never happen again. Beijing just slammed the door on Canadian canola oil, hitting it with tariffs so steep they're effectively erasing a multi-billion-dollar market. On the prairies, where entire towns depend on those exports, the impact is immediate. Prices collapse. Contracts froze. Families who had planted their harvest are now wondering if they can even pay for the fuel to run their combines. It's not good. This is more than just a trade dispute. It's a political crisis. This is the backbone of Canada's farm economy. It's been left exposed, and Ottawa has no plan. Mark Carney built his brand on being the steady hand. Yeah, at this point we all know how steady Carney's hand is at this point. He can't protect Canada from any kind of global shock. And now China's pulled the trigger. His government was caught flat-footed. Farmers are losing more than just they're losing faith that Ottawa can do anything. Though I believe that most people at this point feel the same way about Ottawa. So exactly what happened here? Well, you see, China slapped a 100% tariff on Canadian canola oil and meal. Now, that alone is a body blow. And then just weeks ago, Beijing piled on with a 76% duty on raw canola seed. And together with those tariffs, effectively shutting down Canadian farmers out of their second-largest export market overnight. Beijing insists this is about anti-dumping, accusing Canadian exporters of flooding their market and undercutting Chinese producers. What? And the canola industry denies it, pointing to the rules-based trade and for decades of reliable supply. But for everybody, they know what's really going on. This is retaliation. Canada hiked duties on Chinese electric vehicles, and China struck back where it hurts most. Prairie farm economy. The scale is enormous. It contributes over $40 billion a year to Canada's economy and supports around 200,000 jobs. It's not just another crop. This is the backbone of farm revenue across Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. Losing China as a customer is more than just a setback. This is a threat, a crisis of survival for the rural communities. The hit to farmers is already massive. Market analyst Chuck Penner at Left Field Commodity Research says farmers have already lost at least $140 million in just the last 2 weeks. That just hurts. That's not just a projection. That's real money ripped out of farm families' pockets. Money they could have used. Since March, when China's first big tariff came down, the total losses have shot well past $800 million. For farm families, that's not just numbers on a page. That's fuel bills they can't pay. That's loan payments coming due with no cash in the bank. That's kids seeing their parents wonder if they can even stay alive for another season and whether they can do anything.
An escalating trade war with China could spell trouble for canola farmers here. Beijing implementing retaliatory tariffs on select Canadian farm imports in response to Canadian duties against Chinese electric vehicles, as well as steel and aluminum. China is hitting Canada with 100% tariffs on canola oil and peas and 25% tariffs on pork.
Across the prairies, you can feel the anxiety. I feel so bad for Canadian farmers right now because they thought they had contracts lined up and they're now being told those deals are on hold. The cash price for canola, the money they actually put in their pockets, it's dropped like a rock. It's absolutely just cratered. And here's the reality. Farming doesn't work like other businesses. You can't just decide to stop growing canola next year and switch to something else. It doesn't work like that. Fields have to be rotated. Crops have to go in cycles in order to protect the soil, right, from being overused. You have to keep diseases out. You have to think about managing bugs. You got to make sure everything's hydrated. There's a lot that goes on with farming, and it's constant. Machine upkeep, repair? Oh my gosh, the repair upkeep. This means decisions made years ago are now colliding with politics these farmers cannot control. And what stings even more is the feeling that Ottawa doesn't have their backs, and they know it. Talk to farmers from Alberta to Saskatchewan, and you will hear the same thing. They say they've been left on the chopping block so Ottawa can score points in trade fights that mostly benefit industries out east. It's just sad. And even if that's not the full story, the damage is already done out here. Perception is reality. And right now a perception is that the government has turned its back on the people again who feed the country. For Mark Carney, this crisis cuts deep, way deeper than just economics. It strikes at the heart of the image he's been trying to build with no success. You see, for years, he sold himself as the steady hand, the banker turned leader who could protect Canada from global storms, from Trump. He promised farmers and business owners that under his watch, Canada wouldn't be pushed around. Well, what's been the result? Not that. And now, with China shutting the door, too, and prairie families left stranded, that promise looks empty. The reality is clear. Ottawa has no plan. There's no safety net for the thousands of families staring at bankruptcy. There's no quick solution to replace the billions lost in exports. Instead, Canadians are getting excuses, delays, and vague promises that might happen later. On the prairies, later, that doesn't cut it. Harvest doesn't wait for press conferences. Bills don't wait for speeches. They don't wait for May and hopes. No, that failure, it hasn't gone unnoticed. Conservative leaders like Pierre Poilievre is hammering Carney for picking the wrong fight and leaving farmers to pay the price. Premier Daniel Smith and Scott Moe are demanding Ottawa back down on electric vehicle tariffs to stop the bleeding. And every day that passes without action adds to the sense that Carney is out of his mind. There's something broken in him because everybody's saying stop the bleeding and he's going, let's just keep doing this. This guy, he's a man who may know global finance, but he doesn't understand the people who grow Canada's food. To the farmers, it's betrayal. To Carney, it's humiliation. And to the rest of the world, it's yet another open reminder that Canada can't do anything, and they have a leader who is not able to protect his people. Now, as Carney struggles, Washington watches. Donald Trump wasted no time in stealing the moment from the White House. He referenced outright Canada's failure as proof of his decades-long message. If China attacks you, you don't buckle. You stand up. He told American farmers that in his administration, they would never be left dangling the way prairie growers were left in Canada. He has not abandoned them. The difference could not be more clear. In the United States, tariffs are framed as leverage. Washington uses them as bargaining chips to obtain sweeter bargains. And when Beijing retaliates, American farmers believe their government will step in with relief packages to cushion the blow. In Canada, farmers are getting nothing. No relief, no compensation, only rumors of Ottawa's next move in a trade war. They just didn't start and can't finish. For Trump, it's an opportunity to demonstrate strength in the eyes of the world. And for Carney, it's simply that he is reminded that he is susceptible and that he is truly weak, and everybody can see him for what he really is. In front of Canadian farmers, the difference between Trump and Carney, it's like light and darkness. You can't be more extreme and have of a contrast. It's brutal. One leader is pretending to be tough. The other can hardly accomplish anything and can only prattle on and bank or discuss why you know the families that make the economy of the nation is being left to sink or swim on their own. And beyond North America, other countries are looking. Investors, trading partners, they're paying attention. They only listen to Canada talk about being a good friend and not standing behind its own backbench industry. They listen to a prime minister who gives speeches and farmers who lose everything. And they're making their own conclusions about who really has leadership. And the timing couldn't be worse. Rural economies are already stretched thin by high prices, volatile weather, and shrinking margins. And now that their biggest exports are suddenly gone, there's no way forward for many families. And that talk of independence, once a foolish idea, one they like, that's ridiculous. Why would we ever do that? Now they're picking on my family. I think I'd be in favor of that. That idea is on the table again in coffee shops, farm supply stores, and town hall meetings. People are now openly demanding, why should we be stuck with a government that is not willing to fight for us? Why don't we join the United States? Why don't we become our own country, our own independent state? The cracks are opening into a large chasm that might be too deep and too wide to cross for Ottawa. At home, Carney is losing the confidence of farmers who keep Canada's food chain humming along. Abroad, he's losing investor confidence who once saw Canada as stable and predictable. And in between, there's a question surfacing. Because Ottawa can't even defend its farmers, what can it defend at all? And that's all that I have for you guys today, folks, from us here at the Zone Media Network. I'm Griffin, your host. You're also invited to go ahead and visit American Zone for all the new American news, where I'm also there sometimes. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment down below. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll catch you in the next one. Be well.